I'm Carrie. This is Sisterhood. We're a YouTube channel for those who are single and those who don't have kids. And it is World Childless Week. So we are hopping on, or I am. My dog is right sort of outside the shot here. Each day this week to get together because it is World Childless Week. So what we've been doing is I've just been doing some coloring and then having little chats. And today, what I'm going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the single side of the channel and single life, at least from my perspective. So what I did is I just looked up some questions and thought I would go through and answer some of those. And if you have any appropriate questions to ask in the chat or in the comments, if you're watching this after the live, then feel free to do so and I'll do my best to answer them. So first off, I'm going to tell you, show you what coloring book I'm coloring in today. Again, I'm not going to do this where you can see my coloring, only because I want to be able to watch the chat, and because it's nighttime, it's easier to do it here. So I am going to color out of this self-care coloring book by Cocowayo. These are popular on TikTok, I know. They're just really simple, easy coloring books. And this is the picture that I'm going to color. I've never done a lip mask before. I didn't know they existed, to be honest. And I love lipstick. And I love a red lip a lot. So I'm definitely making those lips red. Yeah, I'll show you though how it looks as I go. I'm using these like Amazon Sharpie markers and I love them. All right, so let's get going. Some questions about single life. Here we go. I'm just going to dive right in. All right. What is the most random thing or weirdest thing that you've done as like solo living? So some of the examples they have is like went to a movie by yourself, had a full conversation with your pet, or maybe danced in the kitchen at 2 a.m. I've never danced in the kitchen at 2 a.m. But yeah, I've definitely gone to movies by myself, and I have conversations with my pet. I have a Great Dane named Gavin. Throughout the entire day, I live with him. Of course, I'm going to have conversations with him. And I actually feel like we do a lot of communicating. So go figure. I didn't know that was weird, though. I don't think that's weird. I think everybody talks to their pet. And, maybe I talk to mine more as if, we're hanging out together. But for sure. All right, so the next one is, what is the coolest place you've gone on your own? So I have done solo traveling before, and I actually like solo traveling. I also like going with a group. We talked a little bit about this last night. But my favorite place that I went to is a few years ago. This was pre shutdown and stuff like that. Hi there. I did a solo trip where I went to London, and then I went to a town in England called Ipswich, and then I went to Brighton, and I might have done this like in a different sort of order. I went to Norwich, and I also then went to Edinburgh. Want to make sure I say that right. And I got to tell you, I would go back there, particularly Scotland again. I remember because I took the train from London all the way up to Edinburgh, and I didn't think that was that long. It was like maybe 5 hours or something like that with the stops. And it was beautiful. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. I personally loved it. And I felt really bad though, because I remember this, there was a woman there who was traveling with her 2 kids by herself. They were crying. I felt bad for her. But anyway, I was enjoying the scenery. And I can't remember Princess Street, maybe? I don't know. There's a train station there, and it's, you kind of come up underground. And I remember I did that, and I was like, oh my God. Like, it's probably just like a regular thing if you live there, but in the United States, nothing is old like that. Like, nothing. And it was just so cool. And then it was definitely, I was like, oh my God, I can see like Harry Potter here even. But I loved that trip. It was super pretty. I recommend traveling alone. Again, you get to do the stuff that you want to do. You know, I got to sleep in. I got to get room service. The only downside, right, is that you don't necessarily want to walk alone in the dark in a city that you're not familiar with. So I tried to get everything done before then. But I loved Edinburgh. Okay, so that was my favorite. Let's see. Okay. What's your favorite activity that really makes you feel like you're living your best life? I like hanging out with my dog. You know, I like going to the dog park with him. I like taking him to like breweries, stuff like that. I think that I am able to have, like, he and I just hang out, right? Like, I actually don't like it when he doesn't want to go with me. We usually go to Starbucks in the morning, and sometimes he's just not feeling it. But yeah, I like to take him most places. And he does pretty good most of the time. What's the best perk of being single that you've come to love? This is easy. And not that married people cannot do this, by the way, or people in partnerships cannot do this. I'm not saying that, because I know lots of people can, but I can spend my money however I want. I don't have to like run it by anybody. I like that. I like that a lot. You know, so like if I want to buy the expensive shampoo, I just do that because I decide where my money goes. So I think that's definitely a perk. And, you know, I don't have to like worry about sort of what somebody else is doing in terms of that. I get to spend the holidays how I would like to spend them. Not that there's not sort of difficult aspects that can come from that, but yeah, I mean, I get to spend the holidays with the family that I want to spend the holidays with. So I think that's a perk for sure. You know, I know that sometimes holidays when people are married and things like that, that can be a real stressor in terms of splitting the time and where do you go, and it can be expensive, all of that. No, I just lately it's been me and my mom hanging out on the holidays, and it's been super relaxing and nice, and that's what I like to do. What is the most epic fail you've had as a single person? I mean, oh God. I mean, you know, probably hanging around with the wrong person, right? Hanging around with the wrong person is what I would say. Those are pretty epic fails. Maybe tolerating stuff, because, you know, it can also be nice to have somebody to do stuff with, right? But I would say that's probably more of the like epic fails. How do you react when somebody asks if you're seeing anyone, or when you're settling down? So people don't ask me that anymore. because I don't think I give off the vibe that is like, oh yeah, I'm really open to like talking about this. I will say that. But I don't get asked it too much. If I do get asked, it's definitely by like casual people or like friends of other people that I'm hanging out with, if that makes sense. And so what do I say? If somebody asks, am I seeing anybody? Well, it depends what the answer is, right? But if the answer is no, I say no. Sometimes I say no. If it's more like casual stuff, right? Just because I don't want to, I don't want to answer questions about it, right? Like I don't want to answer questions about it. Kind of like, I'm just not open to some of that, I guess. Or when you're settling down. This is a question that I do think is irritating. When are you settling down? And I don't say this, but I'm like, I have a dog, I have a job, I have a house, I have a car, I pay my own bills. Like, I don't know what you mean by like, how have I not, like I've settled down in so many other ways, I guess, that I don't understand that question. I mean, I do, but like I'm making a point, right, by saying like I don't understand that question. And it goes into sometimes this stereotype of like the single people are like out there, partying out on the town all the time. And I got to tell you, the single people that I know are the people who do that the least. At least when you're over a certain age. It's the married people that are out there cutting loose or that. So, honestly, I think, so when are you going to settle down? I think is probably more appropriate for a lot of married people. Again, I don't mean that to disparage anything like that. I'm not anti-marriage. But I say that more to say that just because somebody's married doesn't mean they've settled down. We all know that. So yeah, so when are you going to settle down? I don't get asked that question anymore. But what would I say? I'd be like, I don't know what you mean. That's probably what I would say. I don't know what you mean. I live the most settled down life of anybody I know, actually. Okay. What's one thing about being single that you secretly love but are too embarrassed to admit? I don't know that I'm embarrassed to admit anything about being single. At all, actually. One thing that I appreciate about being single is I don't have to deal with like I don't have to deal with somebody else's mood. I don't have to deal with somebody else's insecurities. And I'm not saying that like there's not value in also being there in a supportive partnership and things like that. But, sometimes I just want to like go do what I want to do. Like I don't have to run anything by somebody. I think that's sort of the big thing. Again, I'm not saying people who are married like can't do what they want to do necessarily, but you're living your life with somebody else, and it's only common courtesy to consider how your plans and what you're going to do are going to impact somebody else. And so I do like that. I can eat what I want for dinner. I can spend my money on what I want. If I don't feel like, taking my clothes off the floor, I can do that. And I can just sort of settle in. I think that's why. I can sit and color it in the evening and like do stuff like that. So, and again, not to say that other people can't, but I'm not embarrassed to admit any of that stuff, I guess. Let's see what some of their suggestions are. Getting an expensive skincare product, a fancy coffee, getting a new book, binging Netflix, getting takeout. Yeah, I wouldn't be embarrassed to admit any of that. Ever. All right, what's the next one? What's your ideal way to spend a Friday night solo? Going out or staying in? If I'm like solo, or I guess maybe like they mean like single. Here's what my Friday nights typically are, I will tell you. And my Friday night, as a single person over a certain age, so I work on Fridays, and then my favorite spin class is Friday at 5:30. And so I very much make an attempt to do that. And then what I do is most of the time I'm home. And if I'm going to get takeout, I really love pad thai. So I'll get that if I end up doing that. And then what I'll do is I do watch a lot of YouTube. Maybe I watch some Netflix, listen to some podcasts that maybe I didn't get to during the week. I usually do that in bed. Snuggle up with my dog. Oh, I'll usually take my dog for a walk as well. And that's usually what a Friday looks like. It's pretty regular. If I go out on a Friday, it's usually meeting somebody, like a friend or my sister, for dinner. And one of my two favorite places, they're both cideries. And I really like to get cider. One of my favorite things to do is to go out to dinner, have a few drinks, some appetizers, some really good food, like be in the ambiance of it. I particularly love a rooftop or like a really like pretty setting. I live in the Colorado area. I live in Colorado, and so there's lots of places that have really pretty views of the mountains, things like that. So that's generally how I spend a Friday night. When I'm feeling good. If I'm not feeling so great, then I'm probably skipping the spin and having some ciders at home. I like to watch a lot of AuthorTube, because I've been like interested in all of that lately. Okay. Favorite solo movie night movies. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what my favorite movies are. Well, okay. For favorite like single solo sort of like movie, I would say you got to go with Bridget Jones, in my opinion. The original. I remember seeing that when I was in college. I just love that movie. I love the scenery in the movie. I love the other characters in the movie. My favorite thing about that movie is her friends. They just always, they show up for her and they don't judge her. Particularly when they, like at the end of the movie, I love her friends in that movie. And then I'll just kind of talk about my favorite movies. So it's hard to pick just one, right? But one of my favorite movies is Little Miss Sunshine. It's probably 20 years old now. I love that movie. It has Toni Collette in it, Greg Kinnear, Abigail Breslin. Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. The American Office guy. Steve Carell. He's great in it. I love the movie About a Boy. Hugh Grant is in that, and Toni Collette might be in that one too. I haven't seen that one in a while, but I love that. 10 Things I Hate About You is another one of my favorite movies. I've seen that movie a million times. I could watch that movie a million times. Julia Stiles' character in that, I love. That's another one where I really love the ending of that one. Heath Ledger was in that. Oh, I remember where I was when I found out Heath Ledger died. I was in grad school and class was about to start. And then Mary Poppins. And I know that's a little like one that we don't say a lot. And, but I love Mary Poppins. I loved Mary Poppins ever since I can remember. When I was little, I loved Mary Poppins. When we used to go to England to visit my mom's side of the family, I used to think it was so cool to watch Mary Poppins like in England. And so I love that movie. I also, that's my dog, sorry. I also love the Jason Bourne movies. I don't usually like a lot of intense action, things like that. Like it stresses me out, but I love, like I said, I love the Jason Bourne movies. Let me show you this is where I'm at with my pictures so far. Definitely put the red lip on there. So yeah, tell me some of your favorite movies. We've some people on the channel have talked about doing like a book club, and so they've talked about doing a movie group. And so I need to get my act together and kind of do that. I would like that. Okay. Let's see. Here's some other this or that's. Are you team solo date or team stay in with snacks? I'm team stay in with snacks. I'm a homebody. That's probably why I'm single. I'm a homebody. I love hanging out at home. I like working on my projects. I like just watching TV. That doesn't really matter. So I'm definitely staying with snacks. And then snacks, like I said, I love pad thai for takeout. And I'm not really like a snacky person. I'm usually more like let's have like nachos or some stuff like that. One of the things that does me in is my mom comes out during the winter and I love shortbread. And she's always like buying, she knows I like it. So it's really nice, but I can't control myself around it. So it's also hard in terms of that aspect. Do you secretly enjoy karaoke in the car? Yeah, who doesn't? One that I've been doing that with more recently is Tori Amos, particularly the song Crucify. Dave Matthews, I listen to him a lot in the car. That's another benefit of being single. I can listen to whatever I want in the car. Oh, shit, Gavin. Oh, my shit fell. He's going to start getting antsy because he's going to want treats. When I say that I can do whatever I want, what I mean is as long as His Majesty here is okay with it. While I may not have like a husband, I do have a Great Dane who is very psychologically manipulative and can convince me to do a lot of stuff for him. Okay. Let me find my... Gavin! Yeah, stop it. Okay. We're almost done. Is it okay to eat an entire pizza by yourself? Yeah, how's that even a question? I mean, is it healthy? I don't know. But sometimes those single nights are rough, man. I mean, obviously there's benefits and things like that, but there's also, it can be rough sometimes. It can be lonely. And sometimes when you're on your own and you're by yourself and no one's really going to hold you accountable, yeah, sometimes um sometimes eating the whole pizza takes over. I just try not to do it all the time. The problem is when I get pad thai, I love it. Gavin. And then I also like crab rangoon or crab cheese wontons with it. But yeah, definitely eat the whole pizza. Okay, let's look at some other single questions. One thing I don't do that I sometimes see, like there are benefits of being single, but there's definitely times where it's difficult and tricky, and it can be hard because then you start getting into your own brain around it. Sometimes you can also be that friend that ends up listening to a lot of people. You could sometimes end up being like the safe friend, right? That people feel like, oh, I can maybe share a little bit about how difficult marriage is or how frustrated things are. And you can kind of be the sounding board sometimes when you're the single friend, which I don't mind. I'm a therapist, right? So like, it's kind of what I do. But, I've kind of moved past, I guess sometimes I'm like, well, I'd rather talk about that than talk about sort of my life in terms of the relationship department. So I can understand that, but it can be, you can kind of feel like nobody gets it. Particularly when I think there's a difference when you're sort of extended singleness and then singleness where somebody maybe isn't and are single. It's people act like, people just really go wild sometimes. I do think a lot of people, I think it takes some time to get used to being single. For sure. It takes, like, you spend a lot of time with yourself, and sometimes that's a good thing. You definitely learn a lot about yourself. But there's a lot of time to criticize yourself as well. And so one of the things that I try and remind myself or tell myself is like, even if you get married, you never know when you could be single. Someone could pass away, someone could leave. I was married for a very brief amount of time in my 20s and did not expect to go through a divorce. And, there's lots of people who end up single in older age, not because, because someone passes away, for example. And I try and tell myself or kind of remind myself that, you know what? It's also possible that I'm going to be able to manage that. I'm going to have some experience around that. And I also like to think that I'm going to be developing a life that, so when I do have, if I have a long-term relationship, then it'll be a type of relationship where we're living kind of perpendicular, right? Or parallel, not perpendicular. I don't know why I said that. Like parallel, where we're together, but my happiness won't depend on another human being. My life won't ultimately only depend on another human being, but I'll have likes and interests and friendships and things like that beyond that relationship. And I think that'll serve me well. I think that'll be a good thing because you never know. All we know is we're going to be with us, right? So I do think there are some opportunities related to being single. And again, sometimes it just sucks. I'm not trying to paint it as one or the other. I guess what I'm trying to say is just like with not being single, there are pluses and minuses to both. But one isn't better than the other. One doesn't lead to assured happiness. I mean, one of the quotes that they kind of put out there a lot, not quotes, but one of the studies that you sometimes hear a lot about is later on in life, as people age, the happiest people are single women. I don't know if it's single women with no kids. I can't remember, but it is single women. And, I'm not saying partnered women or not. What I'm saying, though, is there's no one way that is assured happiness or one way that is misery and, the spinster, the childless cat lady. I will tell you, there's no lonelier place than being in a marriage and things not going well. That is some lonely shit. And so even partnership doesn't mean not lonely. I do spend more time alone. That I'm sure of. I spend more time alone as someone who is single and childless than most people, I would say. Gavin has helped a lot with that. I always say getting a pet is an extremely significant commitment, financially, time-wise, emotionally, especially emotionally. It definitely impacts somebody's life, right? I mean, your schedule, it's harder to travel, all of those things. I will say the positives that I get in return are immense and make up for any of the negatives. I definitely worry about what it'll be like, not to crash and burn here in this life, but I do worry about what it'll be like when Gavin passes away. I'm definitely that person who, if I really sit and think about it, I'll end up crying the rest of the night because he's a part of me. And again, I never say to get an animal on a whim, because once they're with you, they attach to you. They have feelings. And for me, getting a pet, I think, was life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. It's just, he's someone to talk to. Prior to getting him, I could go a long time without talking to somebody outside of work. Because who am I going to talk to? One of the things I do try and do is make connections in those places where I'm a regular, like Starbucks. There's baristas that know me. I'm a little embarrassed because as soon as they can see me, and the drive-through camera, they're like, "Oh, egg white bites and venti iced latte." And I'm like, "Yeah." They know my order. So consider a pet if you're thinking about it. Okay. but it's a serious commitment. And so don't just get one willy-nilly. Do not. Okay. Here is the picture. I don't know that I'm loving the gray. But c'est la vie, such is life, right? Sometimes the choices work, sometimes they don't. All right, so that's kind of our single question live tonight. Tomorrow, I'll be on a little bit later. I'm meeting a friend for dinner. We're going to this Italian place that they have this like gnocchi that I really, really love. As you can see, I'm really looking forward to that. But so I'll be on a little bit later. But I hope everybody is having a good week. Remember, take care of yourself. Things are very heavy out in the world right now. And remember, the 3 levers that you can influence, and you can get a real good bang for your buck if you choose one of these, are exercise, sleep, and nutrition. All of those things can really have a positive impact on our mood, no matter the situation. And if you can't do all 3, choose one. Exercise, sleep, and nutrition. All right, it's good to see you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.